Yep, cool. So I can still see everybody's chat, but the goal will be to try and get a bit more focused on when I'm working. The overlay on screen for everybody to see should only come through if you're subbed. It might not work a lot. A lot of the setup in this stream stuff doesn't seem to ever work the first time. But when we get a few more chats in, we'll see. If somebody isn't subbed, I should see the message, but it's a lot less in your face while I'm working. So subs will get guaranteed replies, and then people that aren't subbed, I can, when I get the time, look at the chat and, you know, separately go through the messages as sort of a non-priority, basically. That's the goal. Now it's getting a few more views. I want to try and stay focused on what I'm doing and not get too distracted by all the chats popping up all the time. And this one, well, now this is the Neo Geo from the other day. The customer's paid for the BIOS to be removed completely, cleaned up and replaced with a decent socket. You can see at the minute it's working. That's because we haven't moved it at all. I've bent the pins, but it's that socket that's weak. So I just want to check it's still working. And then if it is, we're going to rip this out and fit a brand new UniBIOS in and a clean socket. So that's the goal. And then it's meant to have a little sub bar at the top left as well, so we can monitor for subs coming in, but that doesn't work either at the minute. So I'll figure that one out the next time. And you'll notice any sub chat also. Actually, that's one thing I want to just update, is make the chat stay on the screen longer as well, which I think I already did, but let me just check that setting while we're waiting for this to load. 15 seconds. Not sure where the settings gone for hiding the messages. Apparently they're permanent. Morning, welcome in, James. I've just been mentioning, I wasn't looking on stream, but the overlay now on screen should only show up if people are subbed, so I can focus on working a bit more and then get to the chat messages at periods of time, you know, when I purposely pause to focus on the normal chat. But if you want an overlay that's like, you know, on screen and I answer kind of straight away, I've enabled subs on just YouTube at the minute, just to give you that ability basically to get a bit more active feedback. And then I'm just testing. This is the Neo Geo from the other day. I'm just testing this still. Well, it works in the sense that I've bent the BIOS into position so it continues to work. And then we're going to replace the BIOS chip with a new one. Because as soon as this chip gets bent after a few days, it stops working again. So the customer's now paid for the upgrade. But that seems to be working okay. So if I show you the potential issue. So you can see at the minute the overlay doesn't work either. It's still showing up all the chat at the bottom. But the goal will be that chat will obviously not be there all the time. Like I've enabled it, so apparently it only shows subs, but isn't working at the minute, and that's because yeah, the code's in there. Maybe, oh, I know what I've got to probably do is set a new overlay thing. I think like that. I bet the URL's changed. So let me jump into. Shouldn't really do it live, but let me jump into the overlays. Go to chat main, edit, and see if the source has changed. So BC 0601. Yeah, so the stream things changed. So Oh yeah, that's going to be nasty if I use that. Let's undo that. And leave it as default for now, because I've got to do all kinds of cropping and things, so I know how to get it working. So for today, it'll still overlay, but that's the goal going forward, is I'm going to make it so that the chat doesn't pop up in my face too much when I'm working, and I can just get to it when I need to. So close that one for now. Right, so this is the problem on this Neo Geo we had the other day. Come back as a warranty, but the work we did was a clean power upgrade and an AV upgrade, and both of them are working. And this is an existing mod the customers had that is bad soldering, basically. So the pins on this chip here are really poorly soldered. So when I pull this chip out, one of these legs come with it. That gives us a hint that these pins aren't very well soldered. So when we, or basically the customer's had it for a few months and it's randomly failed, if you just kind of move this a bit like that, that normally stops it booting. Which obviously we've seen it failing, so we know that wants to be sorted. So if I turn this on, there you go, that's now turned on, and nothing's coming up now, so it's failed again. So basically, it's this BIOS chip that's intermittent. Touching it and moving it, yeah, it's still hunting. So you can see, this is how you know on an OSSC as well. This is why I like the OSSC. You can see that it's hunting for a signal. So that's doing the whole flicking between sync signals. And if we moved this, and then maybe reset, now we've moved it. There you go. See, it started working again. And all I've just done on that is bent this again, just like pulled this towards us. So we know for a fact the issue is that socket, and the work done on that socket is not good. So that's the goal. We want to fix that. So I'll move this out of the way a minute. And keep the games out of the way. I always take this off as well. You don't want to melt the reset button. Done that a very rare occasion. I've done it once, and then you make sure you never do it again because you can't buy spares. And the Neo Geo's got a whole bunch of screws all around. So you have one in the corner here, one down here. You have the two over here are holding the board in. You don't need to take these two out. This holds the flap in for the memory card. And then more along the top, you see them scattered along the outside edges, basically. So just got to remove all them. Now this is a Neo Geo AES. So a home arcade, if you will. It's the home arcade version of the Neo Geo MVS. And we are just replacing the BIOS on it. The previous work done on it's basically failing now, and causing the system to not boot. So we're just going to replace the work done completely and redo it. Morning, Tom. Not doing too bad. Just going to do, I've got probably a lot of hardware stuff to do today. We just finished making, if you saw the previous streams, oh yeah, we've got all the cartridge screw posts as well. I've remade the clean light for the GBA and RGB. Already sold 104 of them within a few hours of releasing, because it's been such a delayed release. People have been waiting on it for months. So I've got to program all them, and I figured they're already asking for the Game Gear and the GBC to be remade now, because I used to have the clean light for that. So I'm probably going to do a load of that today, but that's obviously hardware design, so I don't stream that at the minute. I've also just started to try and support this, partially support this channel. I've enabled members, I think they're called, on YouTube, trying to focus on one platform for people that want to have the support. I'm going to start doing live training, so you can jump on a sort of a members only stream and get trained up if you want to do this. So you won't learn how to solder or repair or diagnose. We're going to have a subscriber only live stream. I'll still be doing the normal ones, but obviously dedicate some time and some days to specific people that want to be trained, to almost like a class. So if you saw on YouTube now, you will actually see, or you should see, a little join button on the homepage. I've never done it before, so I'm not 100% sure how it works, but I can see we've had 2 subscribers, so it must be enabled and working in a fashion. And then I should be able to just, when I go live on a certain stream, tell it to only stream to subscribers or something like that. And then we can have more of a one-on-one session where this camera's completely out of focus again. I talk to people a lot more direct, so there'd only be a handful of people in, and I can go through teaching them hardware, repair, the stuff I do, basically. So if you're interested in that, then you can obviously sub on that. I will also be changing the chat at the minute that's overlaying everybody's chat. I think I have the TikTok's now filtered, so I can see your guys' chat, but you can't. It doesn't pop up on screen, distracting me. And then for the others, it will filter. So the bottom left at the minute showing the chat. That'll soon filter to only show if you've subbed. Just so when I'm working away, I'm not getting too distracted by the amount of messages. But if you've subbed, it'll pop up and I'll answer straight away. And if not, I'll start taking little pauses in the middle of the stream to go over everyone's chat and answer the questions anyway. So you won't get ignored, but there'll be a bit of priority focused on people that are supporting it, because it does distract and slow down my work by about 100%. Everything takes twice as long on stream because I'm interacting, but I don't mind that. But I'm going to try and rework it a bit so it works a bit more in my favour, that I can get on with work and focus on the dedicated people that are asking questions but also supporting the channel, and the ones that just want to watch and ask, I can answer in periods, basically, if that makes sense. Yeah, thanks, Tom, if you're interested. It definitely will help. I know people have been asking for ages to have the kind of training videos teaching people how to do it. So that's one of the big focuses, is you'll learn how to do this. Temps on this are 480 Celsius and 80% airspeed. And once one starts warming up, you'll tend to find the others are not far behind. So once you get one going, the others go fairly quick. And you don't want to keep the heat on too long, because otherwise you popcorn the board, which is no major issue as such, just not pretty looking. So, and the Geo AES are quite susceptible to popcorning as well. So, not always completely impervious to doing it, but I rarely do it these days because I'm kind of used to the heat profile of the Neo Geo, so I kind of get a feeling for when the heat's getting too much. And you can see this is the way I desolder. A lot of people tell me to use the desolder pump, the Hacker, which they don't realise I actually own, and I think it's pretty much useless. This is putting all of my spewed up solder back on the board. I think the best technique for never, ever ripping a trace and being guaranteed to never rip a trace is hot airing and then desolder pumping with a silicon tip on. So no idea if other people do this, but I come up with this idea after trying loads of different ways, and I just found that this was the best way that worked for me. So the typical way is to either use the desoldered gun, like a Hacko, or you'd use this little solder sucker, which again, most people use a plastic tip, so you can use these rubber tip ones. But then people usually use in fact, we'll start at this end, the soldering iron to warm up these pads. So the difference I've done is I use hot air to warm the pads up. So that way there's absolutely no physical contact on the board for the pads or the fine traces ever getting ripped. So you're never ever once going to rip a trace doing this way. Basically, that's why I do it. It's a literal guarantee. You can't rip a trace using a silicone rubber desolder pump. And I've, for those that have seen, I've re-enabled Kick just to give it one more chance, because when I enabled streaming on Kick, all we got was bots. And for the last 2 days, we've had one bot on Kick, and that's it. So again, I don't know if that's just because nobody's on Kick yet, but I had a few people saying they wanted it streaming on there. So I'll keep it enabled for now, because those chats are going to get filtered anyway. And then at least it's available everywhere, you know, depending on your preference then. You can watch it wherever you want. A few more to go, and this should basically fall out, because this also has the benefit of, if the pins are in the center, it does actually remove all of the solder, not just most of it. The only thing here is we've got quite a lot more solder than typical, because there's a chip on top as well. So we've got this, you know, double stack of a chip. 480 Celsius I use. It's pretty much my standard temp for most. Zoom this out a bit now. So if this doesn't lift out straight away, then I can typically just warm it up, because there might just be the odd little bit of solder attaching somewhere. So I'll normally just go back over the board, warm it up, and the weight of that chip will normally drop it out now. And I can just feel it clicking now, so it's probably going to be loose, I'd say. And then we can also come in from the top. And because we don't care about the socket there, the issue is going to be all this extra solder on top of the chip. But there'll be that little of it now we've desolder pumped it. You'll just find warming up the top for a few seconds gets this out completely. So that comes out nice and clean as one big package. And you can see it was these two pins here by the looks of it, the ones I actually reflowed, funnily enough. They're the ones I added solder to, were the only ones that ended up with enough solder to stay in. The clicking sound is this desolder pump. So basically, we just clean this while it's still warm. And you'll end up with a mess on your desk when you do this every time. So after desolder pumping, I always clean up once we've desolder pumped. So you just don't do it mid mid-work because you're going to make a mess constantly. But once we've done all of the solder pumping, I then get a little hoover and just hoover up the bits. And then clean the mat. So that desolder pump noise is the clicking. So basically you push down and then it rapidly springs up to cause a low pressure point there to suck solder up. Basically, that's how they work. The one I use is that worn out you can't see. It's an Engineer. It's the original make from Japan, I believe. It's called an Engineer solder sucker, and it'd look like this. Now I've just brought one from Relief or Relife. These are fairly popular with a lot of products. Very similar. It's definitely a clone, but you can see they've done a poor job of cloning it. So obviously they haven't cloned the width exactly. It's rough. The shape looks very similar. But the biggest issue, can you spot it? I suppose you might not if you use this, but subtleties in design. This chamfered edge here, when I'm pressing, I hold it like this and press here. So that's how I'm using it. Pressing, so my thumb rests perfectly against that 45-degree chamfer. That's how you use these. This one, they've done like a, I don't even know what that is, 10-degree chamfer maybe. So when I'm using this, hold my finger here, digging into my thumb massively. So if I'm pressing this 50 times per job, it's destroying my thumb. So this is no use to me. I'll probably grind this down or soften it myself, but other than that, sounds the same. It will be doing the same. Yep, it's definitely doing the same. So if you put it on your finger and go up, it's like you can hear the suction. So it's still doing its job. But that little difference is a big problem for me. That needs to be fixed. So I'll probably just grind it down. But for now, this is still going. Old Faithful's been going for about 4 years. I've swapped the tip off it. I've opened it up about 60 times. It's had new rubbers, new tips, but still going. So shouldn't need to replace it just yet. Recommended hot air station, the Quick 861 DW. So that's the one I use. And that's good enough. I've had loads of them. I've had like £700 hot airs. All the brand makes. This is literally as good as them. No reason for anything else for the hot air. Yep, all these kind of things as well there. The chat for recommended stuff. That's partly what I'm going to be doing in the sub streams as well. We're going to be going through the whole setup of what I use. So if you want full details of everything I use, like, you know, we'll go through the entire bench setup on like a sub only stream. And then you can ask all these questions for all of them. The Hoover is a TikTok special. I don't know where I got it from. It was on you scroll through on TikTok and it kind of came up. So if you search in the TikTok shop for desktop Hoover, you'd probably find it. I've had a few different makes, but the sale will have come and gone by now, so I'm not sure. Not sure exactly which one it is, basically. But if they look something like this visually, they all look a little bit different. You'll have a detachable end, so they might show you like that. But yeah, no real branding on this thing. It's just a generic, literally no model number anywhere. So I can't give you much details other than what it looks like. And then you have, if I've still got them somewhere, I used to use these for cleaning the desk, for blowing stuff off. So these are super powerful little blowers. So, yeah, blowing stuff off, but I hoover up now instead of blowing. You can do like the blowing for cleaning out consoles. So you take the console outside, and then you blow all the dust out, basically. But that job I give to Zach now, so I rarely do the clean outside of it. Heating from the bottom. The only reason I've done that from the bottom is because this that we've removed is plastic. So I was removing this jumble of a original BIOS that's been disabled with this wire, then a socket sitting on top, and then a chip here. If you heat from the top, this plastic inner socket, which is basically a cheaper version of the socket I'm going to install, this is just melt. So if it didn't have a socket on, I'd have probably just heat up this chip from above. But the other reason you don't heat up from above normally, one, I was desolder pumping to clear the holes and remove it easier. The other option you can do is heat the chip up. Say you wanted to remove this one, you can heat the chip up, and then you can get your tweezers underneath and lift up slowly. But I know from just pure experience, these Neo Geos, all these traces right underneath, if you get your tweezers under as gentle as you are, you're going to dig straight through them traces, and you do not have to apply force. So you might think, oh, I'm really careful, I put this in. It doesn't matter. You lift up even slightly like that. When the board's hot and you lift the chip up and drag back, you're cutting through these traces 9 times out of 10. There's ways around that. You can use things like this. So you can grip over the chip like that, and now you can just hold on with this when you're warming up. But then the problem with that is getting your hot air gun diagonally in here. While holding this, you melt the bottom of your hand. So just all things I've learned through trying every technique going and what works best for me. But for removing the chips, I heat from on the underside, desolder pump all the holes clean. So that's another job we don't have to do because it's now done for us. And you can guarantee not one of these traces is torn or damaged in the slightest. So these are why I don't use the Hakko desolder guns, because you'll burn straight through almost every one of these traces, if not now, basically. So that's why people that recommend this thing here, let me zoom out a bit so you can see. People recommend this all the time to me. Oh, why aren't you using a desolder pump? Well, it's because the tip is made of pure metal. It gets super hot, 300, 400 degrees. When you're going over these holes to desolder wick, even if you don't move, that tip is touching right on these traces, and it will 100% of the time cause you more issues than just using hot air and a desolder pump. Because if you imagine you're removing just this chip, I do work where we socket every single component on the board. So what you're talking there, 64, 100, 150, 200, you're talking probably 300 to 400 pins that I've got to desolder pump. If even one of those gets damaged while I'm taking them chips off, I've then gone from a working console to I've got a potential broken trace somewhere in those 400 pins. That's something you don't want to come across. Whereas if I know I've done the work with a desolder pump and a rubber tip and hot air, I don't even question that. If I've then removed and resocketed all these and something isn't working, I'm checking out my soldering and I'm checking out the chips. I'm never looking for trace damage because I know for a fact it will not have damaged traces. So again, just little things from experience as to why I do them the way I do, but not many people do it the way I do. Engineer SS03 might well be. Let me just look up that. And like I say, guys, if you want to support this so I've got the time to answer all these questions, there's now subs enabled on, or members enabled on YouTube, because all this does take up my time. I don't mind answering, but I'm going to try and grow the kind of subscribers on YouTube so that I get a little bit back from this. You know, giving away all this info and taking me time up to answer. I do enjoy doing it, but like I say, I want to try and cover that time a little bit. So yeah, it's the Engineer SS02, and I can't paste links in because you're not meant to, basically. So instead of that, just search for Engineer SS02. And it is, I believe it is made in Japan. So you probably get it other places, but you do want to try and get the original. Basically, it is noticeably better. Right, Right, let me just crack on with a bit of work now. I can always jump back to comments in a bit, but we need to try and get on with this actual job. So this is the removed BIOS socket now. So if all the holes are clear enough, I think they should be. Maybe that one needs a baby touch up. Where's my little power switch? Gonna move him out of the way because I keep stabbing my finger on him. There we go. I think this pin here's got a tiny bit of solder still on. Or is that actually a leg? I think that's actually a leg stuck in there. Yeah, it is. So that's actually one of the pins of that socket is also still in. So that's also the socket of the pin of the original BIOS, which strangely, oh yeah, it's the one the customer's bent up on. Well, not the customer, whoever originally modded this. It's that pin there that's missing, second one in. And they've literally left it in the board and just cut the leg and bent it out the way. So we found the original leg still embedded in the hole. That's why that one didn't fully clear. So let me just desolder wick this one. There's no trace on top and it's just one, so I'm just going to desolder wick that hole clear. And hopefully this will work. Of course not. Let's just use the hot air, even just for the one. Yeah, thermal tape in other areas. Again, another reason I don't really use it, and you don't see me using the tape as such, because I don't get where the information gets spread, but I don't even have aluminium tape here for that reason. People will say, oh, take this with aluminium to stop it melting, but the aluminium just heats up and heats the plastic and makes it worse. The only thing aluminium does is spread the heat a bit more. So instead of the heat being, say, on this tip, and you put tape all around, it'll heat everything instead, but it still gets hot enough that it will melt exactly the same. If you're going to use tape, you want to tape it away from the plastic and float up in the air, so it's a physical barrier to the heat. That's the only way you protect that. But then there's other things that happen when you do that as well. So there's, again, I've done so much of the hot air work, I can almost tell you everything that's going to go wrong with every situation. There's no perfect way to hot air things off if there's too much plastic in the way or too many fragile components. You've got to either sacrifice the risk of damaging traces or circuit board by doing a different technique, or you've got to do the hot air with a slight risk of sometimes having areas where you might risk melting plastics and things. Or you can add extra time to your entire job and fully remove plastics. This all depends on, again, how important the thing is that you're taking off and how expensive the machine is. Right, so this will just be soldering this new socket in. I'll tack one pin on, tack the other pin on, and then we'll just flip around and make sure that chip is sitting nice and level on the board, which we can see it is, so that's already flat to the board like we want to see it. And now, oh, there we go, we got a member, thanks for the support, Greg. So that's what I kind of want to start doing, like I say, is building up a few members, and then it just helps me cover all this time for helping you guys out with all the tips and that, so it's really appreciated. And then, like I say, we can do little member-only live streams then for be a bit more direct, so I'm not missing your messages and you gain a bit more time with me, and a bit more like a classroom, I guess. I can share my knowledge a lot more dedicated than instead of me working away and doing a job and then looking up for answers. We can focus on your questions very specifically. So can see they're all nice joints. So I think this new iron is doing a good job. Don't I get any closer to that? And then focusing a little bit. There we go. So if anything, if you're going for, like, say, there's grades of soldering. Obviously, I'm all self-taught, so I'm in no way a specialist at this, but I do know you can certify yourself and train up on solder joints, and these would be classed as slightly too much solder. So if you're going for, like, military, if you're soldering for the military, for example, you have to have perfect solder joints. These would be classed as a little bit too much solder, but I can do you a perfect joint to show you exactly what it should look like. Perfectly capable. It's just I don't spend the time doing that on, you know, something I don't think is that important for. It's an aesthetic thing. So if you wanted to get a perfect joint, you just apply the heat first, come in the other side with a little bit of solder, wait out. You can apply flux as well, and we might even have too much on this one still. But let's have a look, and I can tell you when you get a perfect solder joint. So still a little bit too much there. And you can see this is why I wouldn't bother making the perfect solder joints, because why spend your time looking to do this instead of just the functional aspect of it that it's soldered on. But let me just try and show you the difference between a perfect solder, or as close as a perfect solder as I'll get. So that one, the lighting seems quite dark here. Did it go better that way? There we go. So do we have... That one is now slightly under. So see the difference between this one. I can zoom in a bit more, can't we? Let me get my mouse a second. So there we go. So see how this one is slightly over and you have a bubble, and this one is slightly under, so it dips in. The perfect one is in between these two, and it takes practice to get that exact right amount of solder. What you'd normally do if you were doing this to get those perfect gradients is, instead of using 0.7 mil solder, ooh, got another member, thanks Ryan, I'll jump back on the chat in a second, is you'd use a lot thinner solder here so you can control how much solder you're feeding in. Now, I've got some lying around somewhere, but if you wanted to do this on every tip, that's what you kind of do. You'd apply solder, apply flux, you'd warm up the pad, and you'd feed in a very specific amount of solder, and you can feed it in small amounts, but you can see I'll probably end up slightly, that's almost perfect there, to be honest. And it's all about how much solder you put in, basically. That's the difference between, no, that's still got too much. Yeah, still too much. So it's very close to perfect, but the only difference between it being the exact right amount and off is the amount of solder. So you can see the factory joints, they're probably close to the perfect amount. So you've got, and they should be because they're done by a machine, you've got that 45-degree chamfer and then up. Now this really should be a 45-degree fillet with a bit of a bend on to be perfect, but you can see mine is not close off the factory one, to be honest, there now. But that's as good as I'd get. And like I say, if you were trying to do for military applications, my soldering work wouldn't pass. You'd look at this and say it's perfectly fine and it's solid and never going to fail. But it will, it wouldn't pass certain grades. There are levels to soldering that you can obviously attain to. I'm not that interested in that side of it, as long as I know the solid connection is made. It's not a dry joint. The only thing that most people do who are good at soldering but not trying to really perfect the shape is exactly this. You just naturally flow your solder in, let as much go in as needs to, and what's left is the final connection. So this will never fail. Like, this is as good as any other joint would be, but the highest grade solder joint would have a bit less solder in, and you can read all up about that if you really wanted to, on the reasons for why and failure. It's all designed to, you know, go in harsh environments under heavy conditions and have an absolute guarantee that something's not going to fail in service. And it's for things like medical, military, all your key services where you don't want anything to ever fail for any reason. You want the solder to be 100%. But yeah, that in terms of, you know, soldering for a Neo Geo, we have a nice soldered on socket there. Nothing all wrong with that. And there is the new socket. These are as well different than what the customer uses and what, well, again, I say the customer, the previous modder. The common socket to use on these is what's called a dual, I think it's called a dual leaf spring socket. And they're basically, I originally thought these were better than these until one of the people that was watching the videos I do kept commenting that why are you using these dual leaf springs, that they're not good, and I should be using these. And it got a lot more years experience than me, and I just kept saying that basically every time I've used these, I can't get the focus just right on that. Every time I use these, the chips, one, they're really hard to get in, so you've got to align these really well to get the pins in, so they take a time to get in. But two, they used to creep, they used to lift out the sockets, and this person on the stream, well, I think it was pre-recorded at the time, he kept adamantly telling me they shouldn't do that. That's not the case. They are the better version. So I asked him what he recommended as a brand. I brought the recommended brand and it never happened again. And they are actually a lot better than these dual wipes. So I kind of flipped my entire stock of having and selling the dual wipes, these things, and started promoting and using these. But if it wasn't for that viewer that was telling me that they'd got years experience and trust me, it should change, and I tried them, it was all about the quality. So if you're going to get these are called term pin sockets, you need a high quality brand like from Taiwan, I believe, is a good brand. I think this is Nextron, I think the brand I use. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, if you want to use them, that's the best socket, but you have to have high quality. Thanks, Tyler, for becoming a member. This is working nicely. It's really going to help support the channel and give me time for these chats as well, so that's much appreciated. Let me just jump back on chat. While I was doing that, I wasn't really paying attention on that. I wanted to focus. We have another Kick spam. So that's 2 Kick users and both of them are bots. But they won't show up soon anyway. That'll be hidden for only the subscribed people will only show up on stream after this, like on the chat messages. How come I've never seen a circuit board being created? You can watch them on YouTube. You can make them yourselves. You can buy plain copper board. You can. I used to do this when I was like 19, 20-ish, I think I was. You can get a normal laser printer, print your circuit board design, get a piece of flat F44 copper, put the printed piece of paper on the circuit board upside down so the toner's touching the copper, iron it on, peel it off, and the toner ink sticks to the copper. Then you use, I think it's a yellow liquid that you make up. I think it's nitrite or nitrile. There's something in it. I can't remember the exact mix. You pour that in while the water's hot. It etches away all the copper. Then you clean with IPA all the toner off and you're left with a circuit board, the bare copper. And then you can cover this with silk screen. So you can literally make them at home if you want. But if you type in YouTube like homemade PCBs, you'll see it being made. Temperature you're soldering at is 480C. My iron is at 390. So the iron here, my nice new super cheap £50 iron that does the job the same as only expensive ones. I've got that set to 390. Seems to be working a treat at the minute. It also tells me to get a coffee every now and then. So that's literally the best feature of the whole line. That's the only reason I'm going to keep it, is that once it's been sat there and I haven't soldered in a while, it tells me to make a coffee. So I will be making another coffee, even though I've just finished one. How does the hot air not affect the circuit board? The circuit parts? It doesn't. A few streams ago, if you go back to a Game Gear VDP, I hot aired the absolute living bejesus out of a VDP in here, and you can see that little chip there is the die package inside, and there is the destroyed chip. Now this took the hot air at 500 degrees Celsius for literally 5 minutes, point blank on this chip before he damaged it. So people that are afraid of damaging a chip from hot air, you're going to burn and melt and bubble this green PCB long before you damage these chips, because this is epoxy resin and it's got compounds in that help dissipate heat as well. So these chips, all these black chips, 90% of them, 99% of them are very tolerant to a lot of heat. They're not as sensitive as you think they might be. I've just noticed chat as well. I can't scroll up all the way. So if I don't answer them quick enough in this chat, they disappear. Yeah, the Intel chip with some electrical tape, yeah, that made the rounds socially. That was just basically blanking off a chip. The same thing as like cutting the leg on this this BIOS here, how the previous modder has just cut this leg, for example, and soldered this one high to disable the chip. Putting a piece of tape under the Intel CPU was a similar thing as if it's like cut the chip off. And it just happened to be that pin is something that told the CPU, well, the rest of the system, what kind of CPU it was. And then that made it think it was a different model and overclock it. So just a quirk, but it made good for news, basically. It was people enjoyed that as like a news thing. Well, we got a ton of chat this morning. How do you know if your motherboard's damaged from a power cut? Usually if you've had a power cut, it's your biggest sign. Other than that, you'd be hard-pressed to tell if the power cut caused the damage. Power cuts rarely cause damage these days. It's more bad luck if it does. It's more like the transient voltage spikes when the power cuts. What happens is the inductors, which that's been taken off this board, but basically the inductors in everything makes inductance, but there's a lot of transformer-based things. So old power supplies or circuits inside of big power supplies like PCs have inductors. Inductors try to resist current change. They try to keep current. So when your power cuts in your house and the power's dropping, so the voltage is dropping, the inductors with current will rise the voltage to keep the current going. So the inductors are what cause a massive voltage spike in your house. That's what then kills circuit boards, basically. But in terms of knowing if it's been killed by that, it's if you've had a power cut and it's dead right after, it's likely yes. Otherwise, you're as good as guessing for anything. Are your resistors factory tested? All the resistors, all the stuff I buy and use is direct from factory, brand new stock. I work with specific factories. I'll put this chip in as well while I'm talking away. So this is the UniBIOS 4 I've programmed, and we've now got to get all these legs aligned in here. So that one, if they're brand new chips like this, then it's not that bad. If they're not brand new chips, then this can take, literally could take you 5 minutes to get all these in. Because you have to really be accurate. That's the only downside to these term pin housings, is you have to be very accurate and very careful when you're putting these pins in, because if you're one pin out, which is easy to do, and then you push down, you'll bend the pins. So that feels in. I'm going to go for it, and then we're going to check. Yeah, luckily that went in. But yeah, the only downside to using the turn pins is that step. I'm quite practiced at that now, so that didn't take long. That can literally take 5 minutes if you're using any other chip. We've got another subscribe. Thank you very much. Just bear with me while I scroll through all this chat. Tyler, what do I do for a living? So I do a few things. I've got Retro 6, which is this business, basically, repairing retro consoles, making mods for them, upgrading them, selling them as a whole, or selling the parts for you guys to use. We do all of that. I do software, so I've got a company called Angel 6, which I've done since I was 10. I write software, make software, sell software, all that good stuff. Do a bit of house bashing, so I'm going to just brought another house, and on Wednesday I'm going to rip it out and do the plumbing. Well, rip the plumbing out, and then I'll go back and do the plumbing when it's ready as well. work with a few people on that. I think that's it really. As business-wise goes, they're the businesses I've got. And then obviously what I do for hobbies is a whole new story. Yeah, solder versus solder. You'll never get me saying solder. It's definitely solder. See, aluminium and aluminum I can understand, because obviously it's literally written different. So a lot of people don't realize aluminium and aluminum are spelt different in America versus English, but you guys spell solder with an L, I'm pretty sure, unless you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So the L in the solder doesn't make sense to me. Like, as in, it doesn't make sense why you're saying solder, not solder, unless you do actually pronounce it solder, spell it solder rather. So any Americans can let me know on that one. Ever seen the black pixels problem on AES? What causes that low voltage? There's loads of problems I've seen on AES. If you go on retro6.wiki, I can assemble this as well because this work should be done. If you go on retro6.wiki and then go to Geo AES, I've got a whole load of diagnostics on them. There's loads of issues on the AES that can cause different visuals. A lot of people will tell you there's a lot of kind of fake info out there on them, basically. That's why I kind of do my own knowledge-based learning on them and experience, because just because something's said online, you'll often find you'll find half the time the info is completely wrong. Somebody said something one place and somebody else repeated it and just wanted to say they had knowledge, and then it just gets set in stone that a piece of info is correct and it's completely wrong. So similar to the Neo Geo, I'd like to say I've probably done 50 of these now, I'd say, in a few years, which is a lot of these because there's not many of them about and they're expensive. I've sold a maxed out one as well. Well, a second maxed out one in the last week and a half. So Rusty's bed has one right there. Well, two that I've got to build up. So this is going to be a maxed out Neo Geo AES as well. So I've got a lot of actual hands-on experience with these, and if it's under voltage, what you'll find is the issue this originally had. You'll get normally a fade from the top to the bottom of the screen. You'll get a gradient smooth fade, and then underlying that, there'll be exact squares of just random glitchy graphics, normally two colors as well, two shades of color. That's the, what basically that is the video circuit that drives and generates C-Sync. Generates the C-Sync fine, but the other part of the circuit, the line sprite generator, doesn't run because the circuit down here, there's a little chip that measures for low voltage and puts things into reset. It puts this into reset, but doesn't put the video circuitry into reset. So ultimately what that means is you end up with a visual output that looks very distinctive. And that is what causes under power, under voltage is almost always that visual. You can also get it very similar though if the BIOS is wrong, because the BIOS failing will still keep this in reset and give you the same visual output. Oh, nice. Thanks for the super chat. I've enabled them yesterday. I didn't even know they weren't enabled. Keep up the hard work. Thank you very much. And I'm a young man with grey hair. Funny enough, this grey hair come from the last business. Stress, basically, is what caused that. So I was hoping I wouldn't go grey till about 45. Now I've got a little grey eyebrow there and grey all here, but that isn't 100% that I'm sticking to it. That was stress from a previous business. I still don't think I would have gone grey anywhere else for another 5-6 years. But unfortunately, I now have that grey, and it's I wouldn't mind it went the other side. I've got that there. I had 2 streaks. I'm distinguished with 1 streak. I just look stupid, so I need to age a bit quicker now. I've gone from not wanting to age to I need to age a little bit faster, get a little bit more grey on this side, and then it balances out. Oh yeah, the Minecraft thing, I've seen that is actually pretty cool. So I think what they've done in there, well, I'm guessing I've browsed the video, but I obviously do the software side of things, so I can kind of understand what I presume they're doing. I'm going to guess they've made basically a transistor, if you will, a device that can be 1 or 0 based on an input. and they've made that in Minecraft using blocks, and then ended up making tons of them, joining them together and ultimately forming the same way these chips form. They've all just made of transistors. So they've probably looked at like a die or a HDL spec of a simple processor and constructed it purely with transistor blocks that are made in Minecraft. So the amount of time that must have taken is insane, but yeah, it's pretty cool to do. Analog poster. What are we after for analog poster? What's that mean? Figure out the GPS. Make 64-bit. All the compilers do it for you now. So in software, let's clean this out of the way. In software, you just select your compilers and it compiles against 32-bit or 64-bit computers. You don't really, there's a rare case you're coding against sort of 32 or 64-bit. By the time you're using computers that powerful, you're using languages like C# or other things, and you don't do that. Whereas if you're more low level, like say you're programming the, like on the clean light, for example, here, these are a lot lower level, but they're still powerful for modern day. So if you're programming like these Raspberry Pi Picos, you're normally in C++. And again, you still target the compiler there, but you can write assembly for these. And when you start dealing with assembly, that's when you're dealing with 32 or 64-bit. And all it is your registers are twice as long, obviously, as 32-bit. So when you start doing assembly instructions that shift bits between and in and out of registers, that's the only time you really have to understand or contemplate the difference between 32-bit and 64-bit. So it's not actually something you really ever think about when you're generally working away. Get this plugged in. Let's see if we've fixed it. Right, so TikTok side, I haven't even looked at that chat yet. Do we have a degree in electronics? No, I've got no education whatsoever in anything, not even GCSEs. I was shit in school, didn't pay attention. I went college for, the only thing I did college for was coming out of school. It was just where people went, and I was kind of into the fitness scene at the time. So I did sports and science nutrition or something like that for a few years. I passed that with whatever it was. Can't think what it was, but other than that, no, I don't have any formal education in anything. So we turn this on, tap the button. There we go, first time. Yeah, Mrs. also says I've got receding hairline, which I strongly deny. So she's claiming that. I think she's just winding me up though. Like here, that's not receding hairline, that's my hairline. Been there since I was 20. I think that's bull. I think she's just having me on because she's older than me. She wants me to feel old at the same time. Right, so the key to this is, when I was moving this before, wiggling this, on and off would stop it working. And that still works. Wiggle about, and it still boots, so we're good there. So this is all fixed. Let me get that controller and play some Metal Slug so we can do some proper testing on it now. Yeah, all self-taught. Not by choice, it was just something that, as a kid, I couldn't get answers to things I wanted answers to, so I had not much choice but to teach myself. The internet wasn't exactly a massive thing back then. It was pretty much go to the library and hope that you could buy... oh, this was already loaded into memory. I'll have to wait again now. Pretty much hope you could like buy the... books on stuff you wanted to learn. I used to love reading books when I was very young, but unfortunately there's not many books around these days. While I wait for that to flash as well, perfect time, this is now going to be my indicator I've gone for a coffee. So if anyone jumps in on chat and wonders what's going on, there's my new hint at where I'm going. I'm going to get a coffee. So I'll probably have the coffee made before this is done, but back in a second. Oh, the game's loaded before I've got back. Beat me to it. Where's my little camera? Zoom back out. Anybody else a coffee drinker or tea drinker? Anybody drink nice coffees? Right, let's have a go. We just want to make sure all the buttons work. I should probably also make sure the memory card works, which I think is in the other room. I think I've got my memory card in the actual games room, because I've got my Neo Geo set up in there. Yeah, see now, I think I've lost one of my memory cards as well, unless they're both in there. Because I did have an original. Let me just go grab the memory card. Yeah, that's it. I've got the original on a shelf, showing it off, like in my games room. So this is an original one that actually has a battery in. Hey, welcome from Arkansas. I've never been there. I've been quite a few places in America, but never been there. Oh no, this is the box. I've got it in my console. I knew that'd happen. But the original memory cards, they have a battery in. So we actually offer a service to swap the battery, but it's like a sealed unit, so you have to be careful peeling it off. So let me go again. That's on my shelf showing off like the nice complete inbox memory card. I'll go and grab it out the actual console. Right, there we go. So they're both literally in the console. I've got one set up in the games room, specifically for playing the Neo Geo. So we have, this is an original, completely original, and you can see I've had to peel this off as well. So you probably can't really tell, but this entire cover peels off and sticks back down. So I've done that. You can see maybe there. Oh, that's a sticker. That's an old sticker. But yeah, there's no way of doing these immaculate, but you have to peel that off to get to a battery inside here. And then what you can buy now is reproduction cartridges with little switches on. Where's the switch? Oh, a little button on there that you press to cycle between 4 different banks. So you can have 4 memory cards in one. So I'm going to use the original for testing. I don't think I've got a Metal Slug. I think this is Super Vehicle. I don't have a save for that one. I've got Metal Gear Slug X on. So this just goes into the memory card slot here. And then if we go back and pull it up. Caffeine runs through my veins. That's what I like to hear. Yeah, I love coffee. with all the dieting and exercise stuff as well, I've started. Might have to reset that. I've started with having the black coffee with no milk and nothing in at all. And within a couple of days of having black coffee, it starts tasting just like coffee with milk to me. Like it tastes like you're having milk in it. So I've managed to eliminate all the milk from coffee and got no problems. So this didn't tell me that there was a memory card, but I think it normally only tells you if you have a save on, and it'll say continue. So I'm going to do not too well on the first go, so we can kind of die and see if it tells me to save. But I still want to play it a bit. Absolutely love this game though. It's one of the best, I think, kind of side-scrolling shooters going. And it's just hard enough as well that it's got the classic arcade difficulty, but it's not ridiculous. Like I think, oops, shouldn't have died on that. I think the Contra, I think it is, isn't it? I think Contra's so hard if you're not used to it. I think that's too hard, whereas this game's like nice and paced. Squeaky button. Oh yeah, it's definitely this is full-on testing for the customer. Got to make sure it works. And to be honest, Metal Slug is definitely the game that would crash if it was going to fail, I'd say. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking by it. Alright, so now I should, if I now die first, let's see if this tells me that I can save. To be honest, I haven't even done a level, so it might not tell me I can save, because what am I saving? I've never normally died on the first level and not continued, so let's just see if this prompts up about a memory card. And if it doesn't, we can also use the UniBIOS that's installed to test if that thing is working. Now this will normally pop up here and say, would you like to save? There we go, save. So let's save that terrible thing. Do you wish to format? Yes. Yeah, I probably haven't used this one until I swap the battery. So that's now saved. And then if we go back in now, normally you have an option, there you go, to load. And all it's doing is loading your high scores, which obviously mine was embarrassing there. So let's try and actually get somewhere this time. Let's focus. And I am dealing with, I know I say this and it's an excuse every time, I'm dealing with stream lag on this. So I'm looking at the live stream to do this. So there is a slight delay of about, it's pretty good because of how I've got it set up. But it's probably like a frame or, well, no, probably a third of a second, I'd say, delay. I've just got that used to this delay now because I even solder using that delay. I've kind of become accustomed to expecting that delay, so I'm doing pretty well on it, to be honest, for the fact I'm going off a live stream with some delay in. Just as I say that, I died twice in a row. But I do want to get some way of having the setup so I can actually watch the raw output of the consoles as I'm playing, and you guys can see it on stream. So like a multi-output, easy enough to do. Just need the time to do it. Damn, I can't get that either. Ah, as if that caught me at the edge. Died already, really. Yes, also, oh, here you go as well. This is obviously the tank on here. Can I pause? There we go. The tank on here is also obviously the tank customer, 3D printed and made for me. So you can see we got the tank here with this awesome camera that doesn't want to focus. So we got the tank there. I just love that tank. It's wicked. Literally been 3D printed but hand painted. So that's been on my desk ever since. Just really cool. All the detail in it. And that was just given to me by a customer. They just sent it to me free of charge, which I really appreciated. So I get through this level and then might do a bit more work. Right then, where are we? There is a tank on its way, so we want to chuck the bombs. Oh, killed it already. There we go. Come on, give me your stuff. Bombs, thank you. No! Come on, little man, come and give me something. No, not again. Yeah, it survived. Get the homing missiles. There we go. Yeah, if you don't have a Neo Geo or you can't afford to buy one, I'd still definitely recommend emulating these if nothing else. It's such a cool game, and it's got replayability, if you call it, as well. It's something that doesn't get it's complex enough that you don't get bored, even though it's an old game, and it's hard enough just at the right amount for me. So normally I get to like level 2 or 3 and be out a lot. Like, you can set yourself a goal of trying to get as far as you can without using any continues, or you can set yourself a goal of just getting as far as you want and just keep continuing. But you imagine in the arcades, this is based off obviously the MVS arcade, you'd have to be putting money in there every time you died. So every time you sort of continue, that's more money you'd have to decide if you could afford to, so you'd really want to survive. So you just have to pretend to yourself that if you're dying, would you want to put more money in, and you try to really survive as long as you can. So that's the memory card working. The wiggling of this port working. That's the problems the customer had. They've already had the USB power upgrade from us, which is clearly working fine. They've had the RGB upgrade, which we've seen is good. And his EverSD is still working. The Neo SG, rather. So that's all good. These are my memory cards, my cable, but the customer's USB plug and console. So I'll put my stuff away first so they don't accidentally go in with the customers, because I do that a lot. And we might need another foot. I did find one of the feet the other day, and it was stuck to my leg when I lost one of these rubber feet. But we might have to find another one out. We'll give them the old chip back as well. So put that there. And we will want a bag, and obviously this will all get bubble wrapped by packers, not just chucked back in. I'll leave them separate so we can reuse the chip. The game didn't come with, no, it did come with the box here. We can put his game back in the box. That's all off the bit. So we've got the screws. Nothing in there. There's the other foot. So I think that's everything. We're one screw short as well. Oh yeah, the 1/3 delay it was crazy when I was first trying to do it. But I've just naturally, I didn't even think anything of it, and then I just realised I was used to it. Like I was just started playing better on the games, and I'm like, oh, must have literally the brain is just adapted to it. So, but yeah, I'd like to get I don't know where I'd do it. I'd probably have to get a monitor. See, I've got a monitor to the side of me. So the setup you can kind of see. I basically sit and look at the stream for the most part. So this is the live stream. I've got all my chat and everything on. I can swap up here. I can, like, say, enable the PC overlay up here, and then I can disable the PC overlay. I've got HDMI, all the camera swaps, all that good stuff. So I'm literally looking at this stream, which you can see. See that delay when I push? That's the delay I'm playing with. So it's like, what? 1, 2. It's like it's like half a second delay. That's how I'm playing the games. But I've kind of got used to that, and I guess predicting it. I've got the monitor over here, which is the one that shows up on screen. So I just tilt my head, turn that way, and I can show you a screen. So if I'm going to play games, I don't know how else I'd do it. I'd have to maybe have either a picture-in-picture on this TV, which I don't think it has. Maybe it does. We could try that. I don't use LG TVs. The only LG... Oh, this monitor, actually, I think. Picture mode, standard. No. Multi-view. Oh, I think I tried this and it was pretty terrible. So if we go to multi-view now, see, I can't see your stream at the minute while I'm doing this. Web browser, camera, HDMI 3. So let's try. Obviously, there's nothing in HDMI 3 at the minute. So HDMI 3 and screen share. No. HDMI 1 plus browsing. So I think you can't select 2 HDMIs on this bad loop, so there's only 1 HDMI you can select. That's why I think I tried that before. And now it's going to go into some funky Chromecast stuff, which would have a delay as well. Needs to be raw HDMI. That's now gone to a TV, which I don't want. So we go back to PC. Yeah, so, oh, it might not show because there's nothing plugged in. So I could try it next time, but I could maybe have like a picture-in-picture on there that lets me basically see the stream with no delay. See the games consoles, just so I can play a bit better, because when I'm playing, it's like very hard with the delay. Yeah. If this is your Neo Geo, we've just fixed it all up. I haven't screwed the top on yet, but yeah, all good. We've tested everything. Played Metal Slug, Super Vehicle. I've tested your memory card slot. There's your new BIOS. People will say as well, you need to cover this. Oh, I've tapped a button by mistake. People will say you need to cover this window. You don't. It's covered when you do this. You can cover that with tape if you want, but it makes no difference. You need about 20 minutes of really intense UV an inch away to wipe these chips. So it being covered like this with no light, it's never going to wipe in a million years. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, all up and working. You can watch back the stream if you want to see all the work being done. But yeah, it's been done nice and clean. There's no issues. It was fairly seamless. Yeah, I could put a... To be honest, that would be nice, wouldn't it, playing on a one of the actual Trinitrons. It's physically fitting it. You know what I could do? I could... let me show you in a minute. Let me get this screwed together, and then I'll show you what my thought is. Yeah, I use OBS. The only reason I'm getting input lag is I'm physically looking at the live stream. So the perfect way to demonstrate this was to do this. So this is the stream I'm looking at. This is literally the live stream. And you watch, say, when my hands, where am I? Say the hand's there. If I zoom out, so you can see. And if I push my hand, see that delay? 1, 2. That's the delay I'm working on. Like when I'm playing games at the minute, because I'm just looking. But the OSSC is here. So the HDMI goes through into the PC, onto the stream, and I just watch the stream, basically, for now when I play games. But considering I'm doing that a bit more at the minute, like when I'm testing, we're having a bit of a chill and playing the game, I could really do with getting the setup where... that's the wrong screw, you want the longer one. I could do with a setup where we actually have a screen I can see without delay. But I've just had a thought, which might work. In fact, it almost definitely would, and it's going to be better. Come on, little screw, get in the hole. Right, magnetise the tip then. Yeah, that'd be the goal, watching it on OBS. The problem is, where do I put the monitor? That's the debate we're having at the minute, is physically where do I fit the monitor, basically. But I've had an idea. So, feet back on. There we go, we're all good, all screwed together, ready to go back. There, my memory card. Oh, you guys didn't tell me I didn't put the power switch in. We were nearly all done. So that one, that one. See, too much chatting and drinking coffee, not enough seriousness. Let those screws fall out. Put the power switch in so they can actually turn it on, otherwise there's not much use in it. And then put the screws back in. Come on. The magnetized tip made it worse this time. Last one again, and this time we actually have the power button in. There we go. Right. So, customers all done. My memory cards, put them up there at the minute. So, to play the games, this is what I was thinking. If we look at the setup a minute, we have the live stream up here, which is what I'm currently playing on. I need all this real estate though, because I need switching the screens over here. I need the TikTok chat here. The other live chat is kind of over here that you can't see. So all the screens needed for me to see, like I need to monitor the stream all the time. I've got this one that shows the overlay. So if I overlay something on the stream for you and click this button, it overlays what's on this screen here, basically. So that's needed, but, well, to be honest, I have a CRT here. Why don't I just play it straight through this? Like, I was just about to say what I can do is stack another CRT on here, move this monitor to float over there, but then why don't I just... I can rewire this so that we use a splitter, because at the minute it's just wired straight to the CRT with a plug I've got running to the front here and composite here. So I just have like both outputs on the back running to the front. I could do that, but then have a splitter and run it through the OSSE secondary. That's what I'll do. And then I can just turn and face this way when we're playing, and I can see the CRT and you guys can see it on stream. That's a perfect idea. So that's what we'll do for that. Like, I don't know why I didn't think of that. I've got the CRT as like my secondary backup where I use it just to test if the consoles work, but I don't feed it through the OSSE. I either use it in the Trinitron or in the OSSE. I can just daisy chain it or use a duplicator. I don't know why I didn't even think of that. So yeah, I'll do that for the next stream as well. That's a good idea. Just tuned in. We've done all this work, so we've just assembled it. You'd have to go back to see. We've taken out the old BIOS, resocketed it neatly, put a brand new UniBIOS 4 in, played some Metal Slug, made sure it's all working. And yeah, we've wrapped that one up. And then now I don't know whether I jump onto, yeah, I will. So let me just jump onto one other thing I noticed before it goes into production, before we wrap it up. We have the Sega Saturn Clean Power. We did a stress test on it the other day, and this all works perfectly. But the only thing was, I mentioned the 12-volt rail is outputting 11.2, and I presume the factory's just got slightly poor quality specs on the resistors. They need to be high accuracy resistors, like 0.05% tolerance. So let me just pull up the data sheet. I can't show you the data sheet because the schematic, because this is obviously my design, and we don't open source these designs yet. But I can show you, what I'm going to be doing. And we've got the rails here. So we have all these regulators are the exact same topology. In a sense, they work the same, but they are configured differently for different voltages. So this one can output 3.3, or if you flick the switch, it can output 5. So this is like a dual version, and this just enables an extra resistor. The 5 volts fixed at 5, and this one's fixed at 9 and 12. So this is powered from USB-C for the Sega Saturn. So we plug this in. I can now use a USB-C here. So I'll just grab a USB-C cable and plug that into there. And then now we have the test switch was on, so it doesn't like to be, see how that one hasn't come up? That's because you want the power to be in before you turn on, and then it comes up. That's just thinking it hasn't come up in time. This is one of the hardwares I've made. So this is basically a replacement power board for the Sega Saturn. This sits over your Sega Saturn power pins. And these are modern regulators that I've designed to output the power to the circuit. And then you can power it from USB-C now instead of the classic DC. So there should be a video on YouTube. There definitely will be when I used to do the pre-recorded ones, which I'll probably do some of. Let me search for Sega Saturn Clean Power so you can see the end result. Yeah, this is over here. Pull that up. So this is the whole video you wanted to watch it. Replaces all this. This is an older design. This is now newer. But you can see there, go back. This is basically sitting in the console. So it sits over the pins. And the USB board, do I show it going in the back? It's probably a half-done video, not really showing it off. I think I say where it goes, so I didn't even show it off there. That's how lazy I am when it comes to... I'll design the product that I can't be asked to sell it. So this didn't even have a photo on the website for a year. So when I made this product, I just chucked it on the website for sale and never even looked back and never did a photo, and it's still sold. But yeah, it goes in the back of the Sega Saturn there, and it's got a nice bracket. So you can probably find that... If I minimize that now, I'll just keep this open as well to make sure I'm not getting banned on bloody TikTok, because they keep banning me. They don't seem to have banned me since I've told people not to donate to Rusty's bed anymore. So Rusty's no longer getting a new bed, but I suppose the super chat can pay for his bed now, which is a good thing. Let me see if I can find a picture of somebody that's installed it that isn't me, so I can show you what it looks like at the back. There'll be a photo somewhere. I could obviously go get a Sega Saturn, but I'm not that bothered to show. No, I can't find one. Either way, suffice it to say, it sits in the back of the console. Looks super neat, basically. So it looks like a factory port, but with USB-C at the back. What I'm doing on this now is, yeah, these are definitely better than Pico. These can do, we showed in stream, these can handle 10 amps per channel. So these can power 3 Sega Saturns in a row and literally run 24 hours a day. This one power board could run 3 Sega Saturns maxed out with all the mods comfortably. Yeah, it works on every single Saturn revision, every one. So yeah, what we were saying is basically, this is the new version and the final samples for production. All works, we stress tested it. But the problem we have is this is 3 volt, 3.3 and 5. This is 5, this is 9 and 12. The 9 and 12 was outputting, I think it was 9, but then 11.2, not 12. So either that's going to be a resistor problem or some other problem. So I'm going to take a quick look now. I won't dive too deep into it if we find there's something else I need to tweak. But my suspicion is just going to be, it's going to be Sega Saturn Clean Power. It's going to just be the tolerance of the resistors maybe. So the resistor that sets this is R26 in my schematic. Let me just find out where that is. And then we will measure it. Because it could be that it's simply not getting up to voltage, which is unlikely because we've stress tested it. or more than likely, right, so it's that resistor there. So the resistor we're going to be interested in is the second resistor down. So this one, big fat finger can't point at it. This one here, this resistor will be the suspect resistor. I think I can measure it in circuit. We'd have to turn the power off though. And that should be 7.15. You see, so that's a very specific resistor. I can almost guarantee the factory's gone, I don't have 7.15, I'm going to put 7 in, or I'm going to put 6.9, and that will change the voltage. Right, so let's first confirm it's still technically wrong. So that's the 3.3, 3.27 is well within tolerance. The 5 is 4.98, so that's within tolerance. This is set to the 9 at the minute, so that's 8.9, so that's fine. Flick the switch. Sometimes you want a power cycle when you flick the switch, other times it's fine. See, that's 11.3, it's a bit low, basically. So let's just power cycle and make sure it's still 11.3. Yeah, so I'm almost guaranteeing that this little resistor, and I'm not sure, like I say, if I can measure it in circuit, but I'm guessing they've used not a 7.15. If they have, then we've got some other issue. Yeah, there you go, 7 point, well, let's see if it settles in. Yeah, so that's discharging, so we need to take it out of circuit to measure accurately. So let me just get this out of the circuit a minute, so we can measure, and this will be fun, because this is a super high ounce copper board, so this is going to be hard to get off with an iron. Even though it's a tiny resistor, this will not want to come off easy. And then to hot air it back on, I'm probably going to end up melting a switch, so let's have some fun with this. We've moved another resistor as well, so put that one back on. Come on, iron. Right, I think I've got it off now. Just decided it's joining onto the other one. I'm going to tack it to the side. I'm going to show you what I've done there. So now I have, are we all the way zoomed in? Yes, we are. Go to double. I've just moved the resistor off to the side here, so it's now on the side, so it's not technically connected to the circuit anymore. And if we now measure the resistance, this will give us a true resistance reading. And hopefully it just isn't 7.15, so 7.2. Now, let me put that through. I've got a calculation thing I did. Somewhere I made a little sheet. I'm just going to put in, if it was 7.2, what would the voltage be? Because 7.2 doesn't seem far enough off to get to 11.3. But if the other resistor, the 100K, is off as well, it would then add up. So give me a moment on that. Yeah, designed all these. I'd make tons of hardware, so this is all completely designed from scratch. Yeah, they're sold out at the minute. This is the new version. So this is literally why they're sold out. This is me confirming the new production batch is good. They'll be about 2 to 3 weeks and they'll be back in stock. So, and you'll get this exact like new version of the board, which is an improved design. So if you just check back in a few weeks, that should be marked as in stock. Right, yeah, so I've made a little calculator. And let me see. Right, it's opened up on screen. Voltage in, V out 12, resistor top 100, resistor bottom 7.15, did I say? Oh, and then output we wanted 12, 11. Something's not right here. Output voltage. There's an old calculation sheet, 107.15. Oh, no, ignore me. The 7.15 makes it the 9. The 5.27, when it's combined, makes it the... Ah, that's why. Well, I say that's why. that resistor won't be the problem because that's the resistor for the 9 volt, not the 12. So let me put him back on a second. And the other one by the switch is the thing. So yeah, slight mistake there. I'm forgetting it's the dual voltage. So that resistor we know works because we're getting 9 volts. That's why that one's right. So the 7.19 is why it'll be 8.9 and not 9, like 8.99 and not 9 point something, because that 0.05% tolerance. But the one we want is just above it. And move that up out the way. So this one above it should be 20k. The website's retro6.co.uk. Basically. Alright, this should be 20k. That is not 20k. There's your problem. That's outer circuit as well. So let me just measure that again. Make sure I'm not touching some other part of the circuit. Oh, there you go. 20.1. So maybe my calculations are slightly off. Let me put in, do a bit of calculation again. Resistor, parallel calculator. We have a 20k and we have a 7.15. Well, we have a 7.2. So let's put the real values in, see what it comes out at. That will give us a 5.29k. So we'll pump that into here. 5.29. Get a 6.02. So what would 11.35 be? So yeah, it's just a slight tolerance. So all we need to do is then, do we need to lower that down a bit? Yeah, so we need to lower the 20k down ever so slightly. So the calculations are right, like what I've done in the spreadsheet and to work out is right, but tolerances of resistors being what they are, slightly different. We need to lower that. So all we should have to do is change that for, where is overload to resistors? We'll change that 20k for like a 19k. We shouldn't need to change it by much. And then that should fix the voltage output. So it's going to have to be an 18k in my book. I don't have a 19 on hand, but 12.2 or 3 volts is going to be better than 11.3. So going slightly over the 12 volts is not a major issue. There's tolerance in the board. But let's see where we get to with this. So we'll move this out the way, put him up there a minute. And then those are the resistors there. And then I won't need to wait for new samples. I can just literally tell the factory, swap this resistor out, and they measure as well. They go through a whole bunch of tests and measure the voltages for us. So they can confirm that it works before they produce thousands of them. Yeah, that's my tip cleaner's unplugged as well under the desk. I forgot about that. Right, so let's plug this back in now. What we are messing with is a new product, a Sega Saturn Clean Power. It's basically a replacement power board for the Sega Saturn. I'm just fixing the 12 volt rail that is coming out at 11.35, and we want it to come out at 12. So 11.35 is actually, it seems like it's topping out regardless of that that value. So, well, 18k might not lower it enough, but I've got a feeling that's actually an issue then with the frequency. The fact it's not coming up to 12 volt, and the fact that if you plug the power straight in and out, it doesn't always bring on the circuit. I think it's actually a problem with another part of the circuit, which is the frequency. So let me just have a look at that. That is 60k. I've done calculations for that. 2727. That would be, why is my keyboard not working? There we go. 20 volts in that. $12 in that. On time, no shorter than that. 300k. So we're putting in, let's put in 27.5. That gets us to something that's apparently way shorter. Why would that be? I think I did this using... yeah, the calculation's wrong for that, isn't it? Observe real frequency 2. So what I'm going to do is... do I want to lower that? I'm not sure which way around I want this to go. We'll try lowering this and making the frequency faster. Would that make more sense? Faster frequency, higher voltage, I'd say so. So we want to change. I know, I realise I'm basically talking to myself while you stare at the screen a minute. We now want to change. Where are we? This resistor here sets the overall frequency of the circuit of how fast this is pulsing. So that resistor hasn't made much difference. So he's just there so I can put him back on. So let me just put that resistor back on, the one we had. So it's back to factory at the minute and there's no change. And then we're going to change the other resistor to a, I think I'm going to go lower on the resistor to maybe 30k, because it's not the actual voltage divider that's the cause of this issue. It's the fact the circuit on the 12 volts isn't pulsing fast enough to ever reach the 12 volts. That's what the issue is. It's actually a part of the balance between keeping the board cool and also hitting the output voltage. One's a trade-off with the other. So the higher the voltage you output, the slightly warmer the board will be. So it's I think this is just set slightly too low, so it never quite hits the 12 volts. And that's what I've probably done it for when I'm checking for the thermals. So let's just take him off. And this should be, I think this was 60k. So we'll measure as well, make sure the factory have got the value right before we change it, so we know we're doing our double checks. So I've just tacked that resistor, you can barely see him. I've taken him off there, tacked him onto there a minute. And let's just make sure this should be 60k roughly, 60.7. And no, so that's close enough to 60.7. No, these dip switches are for changing the voltage based on which Saturn you have. So VA0 to 5, you put it to the left, VA6 to 14 to the right, VA0 to 14 to the left, and VA6 plus pals to the right. So this is, you just flick the switches based on your version, basically. If you're in doubt, always set it to 3.3 and 9. Most times you'll find the systems that actually want 5 volt and 12 will still work with the 9 volt and 3.3. But obviously you want to put the right power through your system, ideally just by measuring your original power supply if it still works, to make sure you're setting it right. So you've always got a 5 volt on the power boards. If you look at the back of them, if any of your rails are 3.3 volt, any one of them, then that's where you set the 3.3 volt. And then same with the 9 or 12, you'll only have one or the other. So now what I'm going to do is change this 60k. I'm going to go with a 40k, and that will change the operating frequency of the circuit slightly, and that will probably be the fix, because I've done all this when I was designing it, but obviously now it's final mass production. I think that frequency is just running slightly too low. So we will get a resistor soldered into there. And then this is literally sitting waiting. The factory are waiting to mass produce them. So I want to just get this figured out, proven and tested. And we did all the stress testing. We know everything's solid on this. The only thing we need to do is get this 12 volt rail up to 12 volts. go even higher. Let's go to 100k. Nice round number. Get rid of all the other tiny resistors floating around my desk so we don't put the wrong one on. Yeah, to be honest, the very tip of this iron isn't the best at transferring heat. Don't know if that's the board or this new iron. It's more than likely just the board because it's so absorbent of heat, but the very tip of it is definitely not the hottest. Right, then, let's try again. That now doesn't come on at all. There we go, power on and off. Let's see if we now get the 12 volts. There we go, 11.9. So that'll be the tolerance